Well, welcome everyone. This is another episode of our Greer Chamber Live, and it's my pleasure today to have Ken Doherty, who's the Executive Director for the National Alliance on Mental Illness of Greenville. And Ken, thank you so much for joining us today. If you just want to do a quick introduction of yourself, that would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, as I said, I'm Ken Doherty. I've been with NAMI Greenville for 8 years here, giving some leadership to the organization. We serve the community. Our organization's actually served the community since the 70s, but we serve families that are affected by mental health conditions and through education, support, advocacy, and awareness type work. So we've been here a long time in the community and look forward to spending time with you guys today.
Great. Great. Well, thank you. What I do have is I have a series of some questions. Some of these are probably redundant, so if we go through, if you answer those, I'll just skip over them. And those that have joined us today, we'll get through these questions and I'll open it up for a Q&A as we get going. And Ken, just to let you know, these are all softball questions, so.
Oh, good. I like those.
Really appreciate you taking time today. Last week, I read an interview with, in the Greenville, I believe it was the Greenville News, with Bill Lindsay. He's the executive director of NAMI for South Carolina. And he said we should be calling it physical distancing, not social distancing. Can we start off today just talking about this concept of the physical distancing versus social distancing and how that interacts or interfaces with mental illness?
Sure. You know, when we first heard this term of social distancing, or it confused all of us, I think. And so what we have learned is, we don't want to be social distancing, because one of the things that we know about mental health is that we are all relational, and we need interaction with each other. And to basically call it social distancing starts labeling it, and it gives us a false sense of what it really is sometimes. I know if you go to the supermarket, if you go walk down the street and you have on your mask and everything else, we're still not even in many times acknowledging each other. So we're kind of, if we continue calling it social distancing, it takes out an incredibly important component, which is the interaction of people. Physical distancing is a better term because we can all understand 6 feet, but we can still stand there 6 feet apart and talk and interact. And that's what Bill, I think, was alluding to, was the fact that we need to interact during this time, because if we stick with the social distancing terminology, we tend to be isolating ourselves, which just adds to our mental health anxiety, so to speak.
That's good, and that's I think it's important to note that, and those that are on the call today, they probably recognize this as much as what you just mentioned. I go into a grocery store, wearing a mask in a grocery store, you almost want to be kinder to that person you're talking to, and you see that sense of respect with the distance, but also you want to be able to have that communication at some level. Well, that's really good to hear. The next question is about isolation. You brought that up. Isolation has been instituted for people to avoid spreading COVID-19. How has NAMI prepared for this in the past, and what has changed as we continue to isolate into the future?
Well, I think how have we prepared for the past? Probably not very well, because this kind of caught us a little bit by surprise. This is something entirely new to us as a society. Even I was talking with my mother, who lives here in South Carolina, just this past week, and my mother's right at 90, and she was saying, I have never seen anything like this in my lifetime. So for us to think that we could be prepared pretty quickly is probably not the right standard. But what we did very quickly we knew that if we were going to disrupt the ability for folks with a mental health condition and their families to get to some of the resources they needed, and that mainly started out with support. If you're someone with a mental health condition, one of the top things you need to do is interact with people and also feel supported in some way. So we immediately spent time with some of our leadership trying to, for all of us, trying to understand how to use Zoom for the first time. And so we were using Zoom meetings, doing training during that first week when we were, between the time we actually closed our office and until the time our next support group was going to be happening. We had people trained, ready to go, and we started week one, basically, of the shutdown with support. We also had 2 different classes that were in process. So we were able to train those leaders, and we never missed a night of class. We continued our classes, finished the classes. So we made an effort to keep engaging folks, and it's been successful for us. And I think the support that people are getting through support groups, we're seeing increases in folks attending those online. We're even have opened them up to other organizations in the state, NAMI organizations in the state that don't have the ability to do that. And we're having folks from Myrtle Beach and other places join our support group just because that's how important it is. So we've seen that happen. And I think for the future, we will see, we will maintain some type of a video conferencing scenario on an ongoing basis, because we do see that that is a need, and we're having people that are joining us that might not have previously. So we'll probably continue with some of this, even after we're back to whatever the new normal is.
Sure. No, that's great to hear. And have you seen, and this is kind of a follow-up question, but with that support and with Zoom, have you seen our participation go up, or has it kind of stayed the same, but there's more of, you're just keeping that engagement piece going?
In the very beginning, which was now 6 weeks ago, we saw a smaller number for the first couple of weeks, but after that, we got back to what we consider kind of a normal number. And because other organizations in the state were looking for help, and we just said, hey, here's our link, send your people to our link. So we're seeing an increase, maybe some because of that, but maybe also just because we're finding that there are folks that would engage in this type of meeting because they don't have to walk through the doors. And so we think it's all of the above. And that's why we think we're going to have to continue this process even when we get back to normal and folks are coming indoors and sitting in chairs. We think that this still gives us opportunity to do more.
That's great. That is really good to hear. One of the things, and I can't remember, but the next question, and you'll hopefully be able to let me know one way or the other, but for school-age kids, especially teens who have mental illness, how has NAMI been able to reach out to them or to their family members for assistance during this time?
Well, we have a program that we have been doing in schools for about 3 years in Greenville County. It's called Ending the Silence. The program is really specifically for students, families, teachers, and educators to learn some of the early warning signs of mental health conditions, to encourage students to learn how to support each other, but also to try to teach them to work hard to develop, encourage them to develop a relationship with a trusted advisor, whether that's a teacher, whether it's a coach, a minister, a family friend, a parent, whatever it is. Because what we have learned is that students will talk to each other about their mental health conditions pretty openly. And they're on the front lines, really. So we teach them how to be a good resource for their friends. Through this program, we've also, or what we have done with this program, I should say, is that we are running Zoom versions of this. We've made the school district aware so that they can share it through their channels, but we have a whole series of these presentations that are ongoing now, even though they're away from school, so that students specifically could connect in this way. Another thing that we're doing, and this is through Greenville County Schools too, is that we are putting information cards in the lunches and breakfasts, the breakfast and lunches that are served in the community. They're dropping little cards from NAMI in those bags and giving those out. And it's just reminders to students and to parents to communicate, and gives a few key tips on what to do there. And so those are some of the things we're doing with students specifically.
Great. And have you seen, do you have any examples of, minus names and that type of thing, but have you had examples of those that are you seeing an influx of people that are coming in, or has it been about the same, that you, in terms of the teens, the children, are you seeing a trend at all, especially as you're advertising and reaching out to the kids?
You know, I think we're seeing a little less at this moment than we have in the past in regular presentations done in person. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that it's hard to get this message out, A, that we're here and available. And B, not everybody, you know, I heard a percentage just recently, but I can't remember it now, of the percentage of students in Greenville County that do not have access to internet and and can't access these things necessarily. So that's why we went to putting stuff in the bags that are going home, hopefully to just try to get messages to students that, you know, we need to keep the mental health on the forefront of what's going on here.
Excellent. No, that's really good to hear. And I'm hoping programs like this are able to at least spread that message out. And also, like you mentioned earlier before we started recording, about talking with the United Way and the nonprofit association that's in the upstate, and then of course that article that was written. These are great messages, and I think that it sometimes, especially the way the schools are right now, this is still new to everyone. And I have kids that we're teaching them on a daily basis, and it's still new to me. And I'm learning more about the Civil War this week than I've ever learned in my life. So I think the more that messaging can get out, especially for NAMI, that's really good.
Yeah.
This next question is, it just says, how important is it to communicate to someone if they are feeling anxious or stressed? I think it's feeling anxiety and stress, and they're having mental health issues. I think it's how important is it to communicate from NAMI to those people?
Well, you know, it's very important for us to be able to communicate to those folks, and we're getting calls, and you know, we've had to set up call forwarding and all types of stuff to stay in touch with the folks that are calling our office. We're getting emails. We have different methodologies that we reach out to folks. And so it's been very important. And, you know, taking it a step further, if there's someone that you know, that anyone on this call knows, and you feel that they may be experiencing anxiety or some type of mental health stress-related conditions, I want to encourage you, because we are all relational, we know how to engage people. Many times people will feel that they're not prepared or not capable of engaging someone who may be suffering from anxiety or one of those types of things. But I want to say, just talking to them, just engaging them, just having normal conversations is one of the best things we can do. If it's serious, there are other things that we can talk about doing, but we should not be afraid just to talk to our friends, our family members, our loved ones, our neighbor down the street, because you may be the best resource that they have had in days currently. If you're I live very close to the Botany Woods area where the tornadoes just came through. And, you know, we started just talking to neighbors and just the added stress of that one event. And it looks like a war zone 2 blocks from my house. I mean, it just, you know, trees are still everywhere, power lines are down everywhere. But people just having someone to talk to. There was a couple from that neighborhood walking down my street just this week, and my wife and I were sitting in the front yard. We said hello to them. They came and they sat across about, we got a couple of chairs and put them 6 feet away. And they got up to leave and they said, you know, we're very appreciative that you even spoke to us, but I feel relief and I don't know why. But, you know, it was just sitting there doing something normal. So please don't think that you can't make a difference by just doing the normal things that we do in someone's life right now. That's an important message, I think.
Great. Well, thank you for sharing that, and we'll make sure we put we'll make sure we have the hotline number with the video as well. So
That'd be great.
Thank you for sharing that. There's a couple other questions that are have to do with one is what are symptoms of an anxiety attack, and kind of what people should do if they were feeling that way. And I think it has to do a lot with the COVID-19 in particular, is if they're separated or feel isolated and they are worried about going out to the store, and you know, those that have had issues with you know, cleanliness and making sure they're feeling safe, that they're just afraid to leave their house and leave their door, or leave their house and leave their area. Is that something that NAMI could do in terms of communication, and what's the best way to contact, and what are some of those signs that we as neighbors and friends and family members should be looking out for?
Yeah. You know, first, to get to NAMI, to resources for NAMI, we on our website, which is NAMIGreenvilleSC.org, we actually have an entire section that is dedicated to COVID-19 resources. And it talks about some of these things, but, you know, let's just talk about someone maybe starting to experience an anxiety attack from all that we're all having to process. We're being asked to process more things all day long than we ever have been before. No matter how we plug into life, whether it's through our computers, whether it's through our phones, it's always there. It's always in front of us. So anxiety is going to be an issue, and is an issue. I would say about anxiety specifically, there are probably 2 sets of symptoms to think about when this is happening, and some is just related to feelings. You know, I'm suffering from great apprehension, or maybe I'm always anticipating the worst case scenario. I'm feeling rather intense and jumpy and edgy, irritable. Those types of feelings. The first step to any solving of a issue with anxiety or any mental health condition is kind of understanding, labeling the feeling, if you will. So I think we're going to see feelings that arise, and then we're going to see physical symptoms that arise that are from our body's normal reaction to what I think we call most times fight or flight scenarios. So we're going to experience a pounding heart. That's one of the key things that you hear of in anxiety. Sweaty palms, headaches, dizziness, shortness of breath, which then gives us even a higher heartbeat because we think we may be having a heart attack. So, you know, it starts masking a lot of things. And there's no real rhyme or reason to say these 3 things are going to work. There are a lot of things that can happen. If you're an individual experiencing this for the first time, you know, the best thing that you could possibly do is just try to start a deep breathing, not fast. Slow it down. Everything needs to be slowed down. If you're, for the first time ever, you're experiencing an anxiety attack of some sort. So deep breathing, there are different methodologies. There's a 4-7-8 breathing methodology that a lot of people employ, and that's 4 seconds on the inhale, 7 seconds to hold it, 8 seconds to exhale. The exhale piece is incredibly important because that's what slows down the heart rate. It's getting the air out. So doing something like that methodically, really concentrate on trying to relax your muscles because you're going to be tense. Those are the two keys for, if you're all alone and you're having an anxious moment, that is something that you could do that would be very helpful to you. Then seek help. Get someone in the room with you and let them help calm you down. One thing I will say also, when it comes to these new things that we're experiencing as anxiety attacks, if you're experiencing more than one a week, that's kind of an indication that maybe some additional help is needed from a medical or mental health professional. So, if you have one and a month later you have another one, that's probably going to be situational, and you need to address it. Start trying to label what caused that. What am I feeling right now? But don't hesitate to seek help. But for sure, if it's one a week or more, that's a time to at least start seeking help. There are a lot of other things just, in general for anxiety. Contact with others is a big deal. We go back to the relational piece. We're all relational, and contact, talking to a loved one, many times will reduce that. Trying to figure out ways to manage our stress, relaxation techniques, breathing, exercise. One of the key things in this realm is also getting enough sleep. That is without a doubt one of the key factors to helping us get through this in a meaningful way. So those are just some thoughts quickly. I hope that answered it. Maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that was great information to know. And I think that's something that all of us that are on today can look out for, and to help those that are going through some sort of process, and those that we know, and also ourselves, especially today when most of us are working from home and feel that stresses in whatever ways they are. I am going to talk to the group real quick. If you do have a question, feel free to go to the chat and shoot me the question. I'll be happy to ask that. And I just have really just a couple more questions, probably one more question before we wrap up. But what are the resources available for people? And this says experiencing grief, but I'm going to kind of rephrase that. Just what are the resources available really for any of the mental illnesses that are out there, and what's the best way to contact you or your office?
Yeah, great questions. Grief is kind of entered into this as a serious condition now, because we have been forced into this uncharted territory for most of us of, we're hearing stories, and some of us have experienced this, where loved ones are in a hospital, or loved ones are in a nursing home, or loved ones are in some type of care where we can't go. We can't be there. Typically, if your child is going to be in the hospital, you're going to be there with it. There are limits now to what we can just typically do. We are also hearing of loved ones that are passing away, that in these times, there aren't ways for families to get together to go through the grief process. So there are many things that are affecting that, and that are adding to our stresses in that realm. And when we talk about those types of things, many times you would probably want to see a counselor. And there are many of those in the community. There are a couple of courses. Grief support is offered by several churches in the community. I know Taylor's First Baptist offers those, and I know others that do too. And taking part of those types of resources at the right time will be critical to getting help in this realm. Our resources right now, the best way to get us is through emails. The best one is info, just info at NAMI Greenville SC.org. We're all taking turns answering those emails that come to info. That's our main. If you want more information, just shoot us an email. You can call our office, leave messages. The messages are forwarded to us at our cell phones, and we can get in touch with you that way. And through our website, NAMIGreenvilleSC.org, there's a way for you to send us a message there. All of those ways currently are the ways to get in touch with us, and we will respond. We have, everyone is working at different times to respond to the needs of the community. We may have to, one day this week, we had so many calls that we had to triage it a little bit. What was a crisis and what was just someone wanting information? So we don't mean to hurt anyone's feelings, but the crisis situations are going to take precedence at the moment. Families that are concerned about a loved one in serious trouble, contemplating suicide, any of those things are going to rise to the top. So I want to say we are available, but please, if it's not in 10 minutes, let us know if it's a crisis. We need to know that to help make those decisions properly.
Great. Well, thank you. And we did have a quick question. I think you touched on a couple of I said, can you give an overview of resources that NAMI provides? You did touch on a couple of the resources, but I didn't know if you had a list for that.
Yeah, and I'll be sure that I know that I forwarded a few resources, for just some of the information that we're looking at today, but I'll be sure that I send over so that you can send this out to folks here. Okay. A different sheet, but we supply education courses in the community, and I'm going to look for a sheet that I actually brought in here so that I would be able to tell you about it, and I've put it out of my reach. That's great. Education courses, really prepared, right? Education courses, we do those in this community. It's free to everyone in the community. We are starting up what Family to Family is a class for caregivers, folks that have loved ones with a mental health condition. It's an 8-week course. We're starting one up in about 3 weeks online, and it'll be an 8-week class. We also have a step-down version of that for family members that have students or young children with mental health conditions. It's called Basics. We'll be starting a Basics class. I think it's about a month away right now, but we'll be starting one of those soon. Peer-to-peer is a class for folks that themselves actually have a mental health condition. This class tries to encourage those folks to stay with their treatment plans and tries to build community and also tries to help them stay in recovery. It teaches skills for that, so to speak. In addition to that, we have it's an online class, but it's really for active military and veterans and their families that addresses more the specific mental illnesses related to that group of folks, mostly PTSD, things of that nature. It's an online course, and we can tell you when the next one is, or if there's one you can join. That one is online all the time, actually, right now. Support groups, we have those going on in the community multiple times, multiple places. And every Monday night, the second and fourth Thursday nights, right now they're all online, but in the near future, we hope to be back at Taylor's First Baptist on Augusta Street at Westminster Presbyterian Church. And you don't have to register for support groups, but we do ask that you register for classes so that we have enough space and enough materials for folks. So that's kind of a quick summary of some of the things we have going on. There are other presentations and things that we do, but that's the education and support side.
Excellent. Well, really appreciate it. And at this point, I don't see any more questions coming in, but people always can reach out to me. I'll be happy to reach back out to Ken and get the information. But Ken, thank you so much for spending time with us today. We really appreciate it. And thanks for all the great work that you're doing. And we wish you the best going forward.
Well, thank you very much, David. Appreciate it. Enjoy being with you guys. And if we can be of any help to anyone needs information, needs a presentation, I'm not the only presenter we have. Our board is full of really folks that can share messages, some of them psychiatrists and others. So please give us a call if there's anything we can do to help in this community.
Great. Well, thank you again. Really appreciate it. And have a wonderful rest of the weekend and have a wonderful weekend.
Great. You too.
Okay. Thank you.